Tribute to the fallen ANC SACP Struggle stalwart Eric Stalin Mtshali. Mtshali passed away, as we've been saying, at Durban's Inkosi Luthuli Hospital in the early hours of this morning after a long illness. President Ramaphosa says that Mtshali was an extraordinary activist whose illustrious life story shall never be forgotten. Mtshali lived in exile for 29 years and was a Member of Parliament until 2014. Well, to talk to us about the late Mtshali, we're now joined in studio by SACP spokesperson Alex Mashilo. Thanks very much for joining us on the program. Welcome to you.
Thank you very much.
All right, I think that most people are quite sad at this time because here is a figure that was quite large, I suppose, in the struggle and South African life.
It was with great sadness for the SACP to learn about his passing away. Of course, we were aware that he was not well. I met with his daughter, Lindy, 2 weeks ago, who informed me that the old man suffered a stroke. And as we have read, he was in hospital. He was one of the finest revolutionaries of our struggle. I mean, his experience, we were going through our archives in the SACP, looking at his contribution. It was great, it was massive.
When people start to talk about him, particularly people who knew him for many, many years, one gets a sense that he sacrificed a lot of himself, and the liberation of South Africa came at great cost to him personally, losing a wife in exile. But it was something that he was quite happy to do, to sacrifice for the greater good.
Of course, in the 1950s, for example, he was introduced to the trade union movement, and the conditions were very difficult. He earned about 15 shillings. There was a time when he didn't have an income at all, and I can tell you he lived on bananas. And when he narrated the story of how he survived while he was building the trade union movement, you will see that you are talking about a selfless comrade. He crisscrossed many countries in Africa. He received training in the Soviet Union, in Cuba. He did it all in the struggle to achieve liberation in South Africa, and he continued thereafter post-1994. As Kusela said, he was the Provincial Commissioner of Crime Intelligence in the province of KwaZulu-Natal, and later left after he went even as down as serving as a ward councillor, for that matter. He didn't say, I'm a senior leader, I deserve to be a minister, or I deserve to be in parliament. He agreed when he was nominated to serve as a local councillor. He was a man of the people. We called him the man of steel in the SACP. In fact, the SACP conferred him one of its highest awards, the Moses Kotane Award. When you receive that award, you are permanently a member of the Central Committee of the party, and you are not subject to elections. The Young Communist League conferred him a lifetime membership award of the organization. So that's the man we are talking about.
So, legacy, you know, this is the thing that we talk about when people pass on, and we look back and say, when the history of South Africa is told, what would you say has been his greatest contribution?
He contributed greatly in our movement through political education and ideological training. He was one of the editors of our military magazine, working together very closely with the late comrade Chris Hani. And he will narrate to us some of the difficulties they had in the camps, because there was a time when, in fact, the distinction between the SACP and the ANC disappeared in exile, and he became one of the comrades, together with Chris Hani, to insist on the establishment of the SACP unit. So he will say Moses Kotane came to the camp with O.R. Tambo to say, no, there is just one movement here. They engaged until J.B. Marx intervened and allowed them to proceed in launching the voice, the military voice, which was funded from the Soviet Union. So you are talking about an engaging comrade who who didn't see the weapons that were meant for liberation only as, the tools of violence, but believed in political education and ideological training.
All right, we've run out of time, but perhaps as a final question, for him, I think the struggle was not yet over. Even when he died, he talked about wishing that a truly socialist South Africa would have happened in his lifetime. And he lamented that, young people didn't quite appreciate the cost of freedom and appreciate what had been contributed by many. What do you think he would be saying to the leadership of today if he could leave them with a last word?
Let me talk about what he said, because that will give us certainty. In the past 10 years, the South African Communist Party has been growing tremendously membership-wise. And he said to us that he was worried about the growth of the SACP. He looked at the time he was recruited to join the Communist Party in 1957. There you were prepared first, and only the best were recruited to the party. By the time you are recruited, you have went through screening, you have went through training. When you arrive, the induction just polishes you. And he said to us, we must be careful. We must not rush the numbers. We must combine the quantitative growth of the SACP with the qualitative growth of party membership, because there has to be a distinction between communist and non-communist revolutionaries.
All right, I think that's a good place to leave this conversation. Once again, our condolences to your organization on the loss of your leader. Thank you so much indeed.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right.